faithfully conveying value and interpreting great books worldwide. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today we'll explore the book Difficult Conversations. What makes a conversation difficult? It's when talks hit deadlock and can't move forward. These tough conversations happen everywhere, both in life and at work. Say your salary hasn't changed for years. How do you ask your boss for a raise? Or when your partner moves to your city to build a life together, but you want to end the relationship. How do you have that talk? Uh, where, uh, Facing these, some feel helpless and desperate, while others navigate them smoothly, not just getting raises, but landing promotions. They handle tough clients effortlessly and resolve relationship issues skillfully. The difference? Understanding difficult conversations and mastering the techniques. So, what exactly makes difficult conversations so challenging? And what skills help overcome them? This book holds the answers. Its author, Douglas Stone, ranks among the world's top communication experts. He contributed to the 1980 U.S. Iraq hostage negotiations and South Africa's apartheid ending talks. As deputy director of Harvard's negotiation project, he's advised giants like Boeing and Morgan Stanley. Difficult Conversations became an instant New York Times bestseller, translated into 25 languages. For 20 years, it stayed in Amazon's top 10 communication books. Management guru Peter Senge said, "The only people who don't need this book are those who never work with others." Now I'll unpack the book's essence through two key questions. First, what exactly makes difficult conversations so hard? Second, how do we handle them? Let's start with the first question. What makes difficult conversations so challenging? After analyzing thousands of tough talks, Douglas found three deadlocked causes. First, unclear facts. Most deadlocked conversations involve disputes centered on factual disagreements, like what you said, what he said, what you did, what he did, who's right, and who should take the blame. Douglas believes these arguments happen because we get trapped in three kinds of assumptions. First, we assume we're right and they're wrong. Second, we assume they have bad intentions. Third, we assume all the blame is on them, and we're blameless. Getting stuck in these assumptions leads to nothing but endless arguing. We think we're right, and they think they're right too. If we assume they have bad motives, they'll think we're the bad guys. We blame them entirely and take no responsibility, and they're thinking the same thing. Both get stuck arguing. To break free from this trap, we've got to learn to listen and see things from their perspective. If you begin by listening to their feelings, stepping into their shoes to see why they acted that way, and then owning up to your part, the talk gets way smoother. Let's see an example. Kelly is Sid's employee, and he always misses deadlines for submitting files. Sid has discussed this with Kelly multiple times, but it didn't work. Every time they bring it up, Kelly gets upset. From Sid's perspective, late submissions are a major error. Kelly must be either slacking off or bad at time management. Bottom line, Kelly's got to own up to this. Kelly feels he's overloaded with work, giving his all, but Sid ignores it. What's the harm in being 2 days late with files each month? Those files take 10 minutes to review. Sid's just nitpicking, both stuck in their assumptions, so the talk goes nowhere. To break this impasse now, they need to listen and empathize. Once Sid sees from Kelly's view, he realizes Kelly's not slacking. He's swamped with work, and Sid never praised him or explained his own role. And from Sid's side, Kelly sees that handling these files takes tons of time and energy. If Kelly's late, Sid has to work late every day at month end. Submitting on time isn't about making things hard, it's necessary. Both dropped their wrong assumptions, and the talk broke through fast. Sid praised Kelly's hard work, and Kelly promised Sid he'd submit files on time from now on. That concludes the first cause of difficult conversations. These three false assumptions make us lose sight of facts, engage in pointless arguments, and get conversations stuck. Now for difficult conversations, second cause. Misunderstanding emotions. A mistaken view is that conversations solve problems, so both sides should deliberately avoid emotions. But Douglas argues emotions can't be avoided. If both sides can't understand and acknowledge each other's emotions, the conversation won't even reach problem solving. Understanding emotions isn't easy. Most people think they know their own feelings well, but that's not true. Often, we get blinded by one strong emotion and ignore others. For example, beneath love lie care and pride. Under anger, hide disappointment and frustration. Under hurt lie disappointment, betrayal, and letdown. Under fear, hide embarrassment, guilt, regret, shame, and self loathing. Take Sophia, who won first place in the Smile Angel competition. Her mom hugged her excitedly, saying, I love you, baby. Here, love is the strong emotion, but pride hides beneath it. She's proud to have such a daughter. Uncovering these hidden emotions helps others understand feelings better, turning conflict into understanding. Another example, Brett struggled to find work after graduation. His mom kept calling to push him to send resumes and interview more, making Brett furious. He told his friend Mark, who asked, besides anger, what other emotions do you feel? Brett thought deeply and realized he also felt shame, fear, confusion, and loss of confidence. If Brett only expressed anger, his mom might retort, your lack of effort makes me angry too. This just fuels both sides' anger without helping the conversation. But if Brett expresses more emotions, it gives his mom information to reflect on. She realized her actions burdened him psychologically, then understand Brett's feelings. Their conversation wouldn't end abruptly because of mutual anger. And of course, emotions can be tricky. They sometimes disguise themselves as judgments and accusations. Once these take over, both sides lose sight of facts and fall into false assumptions. Let's see a case. Emma and Hannah are best friends. Recently, their friendship hit a crisis. Emma believes she helped Hannah through her divorce. She kept Hannah company when lonely, but Hannah never said thank you. Emma feels she's given far more to this friendship than Hannah. In Emma's view, she already expressed her feelings to Hannah. But let's hear how Emma actually phrased it. Emma told Hannah, you're completely self-centered and never consider others. Hannah reacted coldly, retorting, I'm not like that, you're being oversensitive. After this talk, Hannah kept acting the same. Clearly, Emma wanted to express her feelings, but her words, you're completely self-centered, were actually a judgment, an accusation. To Hannah, it meant only one thing. Emma was blaming her. If you were Hannah, would you accept such blame? Absolutely not. Emma's judgment and accusations only deadlocked the conversation, damaging their already fragile friendship. The right approach is uncovering emotions hidden beneath judgments and accusations. Ask yourself why you want to accuse them. The hidden emotions lie in the answer. Once found, express them fully. In this case, Emma could ask why she wanted to accuse Hannah, because Hannah's coldness made her feel hurt and angry. She'd invested so much in their friendship, yet Hannah showed no gratitude and treated her coldly. Here, hurt and disappointment were the emotions hidden beneath the accusations. Emma could have started by directly expressing her emotions. Hannah, I feel hurt and wonder if we're still friends. See, this is pure emotional expression, no assumptions about intentions or blame. See, this phrasing doesn't even include you. It lowers defenses and helps both sides validate each other's emotions. Once emotions are acknowledged, problem solving becomes possible. All right, that concludes the second cause of deadlocked conversations. Now let's explore the third cause of deadlock, failing to maintain inner balance. Douglas found many tough conversations are difficult because they threaten our self-identity. Every conversation tests how we see ourselves. These tests are like earthquakes in our inner world, throwing us off balance. Facing imbalance, we instinctively react. maybe feeling down, shutting down, or yelling. Any reaction can collapse an already shaky talk. So, how do we maintain inner balance? The solution isn't suppressing their reaction, but preparing to face it. Take this example. A manager needs to fire an employee. Hearing this news, the employee gets emotional, even curses at the manager. To suppress the reaction, the manager keeps blaming the employee's work mistakes for the firing. Finally, the employee gets furious and physically attacks the manager. Initially, the employee's reaction made the manager feel his decision was questioned, like he's a bad manager. This threat to his self image made him want to force calm acceptance and a quiet exit. But is that realistic? Absolutely not. The manager must accept. The employee has a right to react. It's natural and uncontrollable. As a manager, you should brace for all reactions. If you brainstorm every possible reaction and prepare responses beforehand, when the talk happens, nothing surprises you. You stay calm. The more prepared you are, the easier it is to maintain balance during tough talks. That concludes our first major question. Difficult conversations are hard for three reasons: misjudging facts, misunderstanding emotions, and failing to maintain inner balance. Now let's tackle the second question. How do we handle difficult conversations? Difficult conversations? Douglas introduces 4 steps for handling difficult conversations in this book. First, we'll cover step 1, starting with the third story. And what exactly is the third story? It means narrating events from a neutral perspective. In tough conversations, we typically state our views from our own standpoint, while the other person does the same, making persuasion nearly impossible. But starting with the third story is different. It's a fair, impartial narrative like a neutral outsider would give. This approach makes people more receptive and lowers defensiveness. Consider roommates Jack and Peter who had a conflict. What are their stories? Let's hear each perspective. First story from Jack's view: my roommate Peter always leaves dirty dishes in the sink forever without washing them. I end up washing them every time. It's frustrating. I once confronted Peter. Leaving dirty dishes piled up is unhygienic. Peter just shrugged it off, saying, "Relax, I'll get to them later." Second story from Peter's view: I do wash dishes left in the sink, just not immediately. Why should I wash them right away? I prefer doing them later. Jack never waits. He washes them himself, then blames me. It's infuriating. Now, the third story from their mutual friend's neutral perspective. Jack and Peter are roommates with different living habits who disagree about when to wash dishes. This causes ongoing frustration with each other's behavior. Clearly, both personal stories contain judgments about the other person. But the third story contains no evaluation of who's right or wrong. Both accept it because they feel their perspectives are acknowledged fairly. Seeing this balanced approach worked, Jack changed how he communicated. He tried approaching Peter from a neutral perspective without judgment. Peter, seems we have different views on dishwashing timing. Could we talk about it? Peter readily agreed without resistance, and their conversation went surprisingly smoothly. That covers step 1. Start conversations by neutrally and objectively describing events. This helps establish common ground both sides accept. Step 2 is learning to listen. Often we focus on persuading while ignoring what they're saying. Then they feel unheard, repeating points louder, thinking we don't understand. Predictably, arguments erupt. When both want to persuade, someone must yield first. If we stop arguing and listen first, they'll pause to hear us. Douglas's listening isn't just hearing words, it's skilled engagement. First, ask open-ended questions to understand them, not closed yes or no questions. Closed questions give little information. Open ones reveal their perspective. Like, what's your next step? Or who asked, what challenges did you face in this project? Those are open questions. After they answer, paraphrase, translate their meaning in your words. Say, you're disappointed I didn't consult you first. Or, are you saying the project budget has issues? This has 2 benefits. First, checks if you understood correctly. Second, shows you listened. So now they should hear your thoughts. Finally, acknowledge their emotions. Show you're trying to understand. Sometimes a simple nod or gaze conveys acknowledgement without words. Everyone wants emotional validation. It eases their unease immediately. This helps facilitate the conversation that follows. All right, we've listened to their thoughts. Next, it's their turn to hear our feelings. This is step 3 in handling difficult conversations. Step 3, learn to express your own thoughts. We often wonder, I've said my thoughts many times, so why doesn't the other person understand? Actually, it's because we keep repeating trivial topics and overlook the most important thing. Let's take an example. Charlie's brother has dyslexia. Charlie wants to help him, so he often says things like, you should join the debate club, it'll help you. You should go out and socialize more. However, no matter what Charlie says, his brother feels criticized and defensive, making their relationship worse. In this story, what's the most important thing for Charlie? Uh, Charlie says he loves his brother and wants to be a good brother. That's the most important thing. But in their talks, Charlie never expresses this. His brother can't read minds, so he doesn't know Charlie's true feelings. When Charlie finally tells him, his brother is stunned. Charlie actually loves him, not resents him, and needs his help to be a good brother. Outcome. This action turns their relationship around, improving it. In many conversations, we make similar mistakes that deadlock talks. So before diving into a conversation, ask yourself, have you expressed the core issue? Secondly, when expressing thoughts, be direct. Don't make them guess. For instance, after marriage, Lily's husband spends less time shopping with her and prefers staying home gaming. Lily increasingly dislikes such weekends. She tells her husband, honey, there's so much to do at home this weekend. An indirect approach. Really wants him to stop gaming, but she steers the topic to chores, which isn't her real goal. Her husband might say, it's not that much. Let me finish my game first. Then, wouldn't they just keep discussing chores? The correct approach is to tell him directly, I want more time together. The best communication method is to be upfront, clearly express your thoughts. Douglas provides 3 principles for this. First principle, don't present your conclusions as absolute truth. In tough talks, we often present opinions as facts, which only sparks resentment and defensiveness, turning conversations into arguments. Second principle, explain where your conclusions come from. You have information they don't. If that information matters, share it. Third principle, avoid exaggerating. To convey our low mood, we might overstate, saying things like, why do you always criticize my clothes? You never compliment me. Words like always or never imply they're unlikely to change when we actually want behavioral change. Better to remind yourself they didn't intend harm and didn't realize they hurt you than invite them to reconsider. That concludes step 3. Now for step 4, problem solving, which centers on guiding conversations. When talks risk deadlock, steer them back on track. Douglas offers 3 techniques, starting with reframing. Rephrase their thoughts in your words while adding your perspective. This aims to shift their thinking patterns. Example, when James tells Lena, this is all your fault, she could respond, I know I bear some responsibility here, but we both share responsibility. Rather than blaming, let's examine what we both did to reach this point. Notice how Lena acknowledges James' view, some responsibility, but adds her perspective. We both share. This technique redirects James from blame to joint responsibility, guiding the conversation. Second technique, topic reset. Sometimes, no matter how well you listen, reframe, or speak, they interrupt, attack, or silence you. Then reset by naming the problem as a new topic. I notice we keep interrupting each other. Can we discuss how to improve our conversation flow? For instance, in the conversation, Mark always attacks George, so George can raise this issue as a new topic. George could say, Every time I bring up something important, you angrily attack me, and this has happened multiple times. I want to know what's making you so upset and reactive. After reframing the topic, George stops pushing his own agenda and instead explores why Mark is so agitated. Once the cause is identified, it dispels the tension and turns the conversation around. When we guide the conversation back on track, it's time to solve the problem. At this stage, your job is to create options. If one side always gives in, the relationship won't last. Solving problems usually requires mutual compromise and care. So, the options you create must satisfy both sides' interests. Let's take an example. The neighbor's dog often barks loudly, keeping Eva awake at night. Eva approaches the neighbor and asks if he could get a dog that doesn't bark. The neighbor gets angry and suggests Eva wear earplugs to sleep, and they part unhappily. Eva realizes this talk doesn't fix the problem. She'll still be woken up by the dog. Now, Eva needs to create a mutually acceptable option, like asking the neighbor to move the doghouse to the far corner away from her home. After discussing, the neighbor thinks Eva's idea is great, and they chat happily all afternoon. And Eva knows that if she doesn't plan to move, she must find a solution that satisfies both. The same principle applies when facing difficult conversations. That wraps up our interpretation of difficult conversations. We can't change others, but we can change how we talk, inviting them to collaborate, break deadlocks, and solve problems. Hopefully, through this book, we can all become masters of conversation. All right, that concludes our discussion on difficult conversations. The audiobook notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.